Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. I'm your host, Jerred Moon. The Garage Gym Athlete Podcast is a result of my desire to build better humans, unequivocal coaches, and autonomous athletes. I've spent the last several years obsessing over program design, nutrition, and every other way you can optimize human performance. This podcast distills the latest scientific research with what I've learned and blends it with the not-so-scientific field of mental toughness. We are here to build you into a dangerously effective athlete. If you enjoy this podcast, you can find out more about our training at garagegymathlete.com. And if you want to pursue more into the field of coaching and programming, head to endof3fitness.com. Thanks for listening. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. Jerred Moon here with Joe Courtney and Mark Campbell. How you doing?
What's up?
Yeah, absolute pleasure, guys, to be here with you today. Absolute pleasure.
Yeah, staying up late for us. We do appreciate it. So we will, I don't know when your bedtime is, but you said it was 9 p.m. before we started, and I think that's right. I'm probably already asleep.
My bedtime, yeah.
So we really do appreciate it. Anytime we can get international, though, is awesome. So give us some introduction stuff, the basics, who you are, what you do, how you train, and all that.
Yep. 44 years old, from Perth, Australia, on the west coast of Australia. Originally, though, from Hobart, Tasmania, which is the little island down the bottom. You might have heard of the Tassie Devil.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm originally from. I am a teacher, a primary teacher, which I think you might call elementary school over there, 10, 11-year-olds.
Okay.
Which is fun. And I am the father of 3 beautiful kids, a 21-year-old daughter, and 1.5-year-old, and a 3.5-year-old, which keeps me rather busy. Yeah, well, yeah. Previous marriage, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. And what do you teach?
Primary school here, you've got the main teacher who teaches pretty much everything.
Okay.
There's a few core subjects that the kids go out to that I don't have to teach, like science and phys ed and music. But pretty much I teach the children with me in the class the whole time, and I teach them everything.
That's great.
Lots of fun.
Yeah. And so what's your setup? Garage gym, basement, Globo gym? Where are you training at?
Yeah, so I'm one of those guys who I am representing the people that don't actually have a garage gym as such. So my gym's called Jets. It's one of those 24-hour gyms where you've got a key card and you can go in and out whenever you like. I'm lucky in the sense that it is only 5 to 10 minute walk from my place.
Oh, nice.
So it's kind of
awesome.
So it's a warm-up walk, go in, do the workout, cool down, walk home. The positives, what I really enjoy about the gym is the fact that there's everything there. Everything that I could want is pretty much there, even down to an assault runner and things like that, so I don't have to run outside in the winter time. The only frustrating part is obviously the wondering, when that bit of equipment might be available and so forth. I do train usually Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday nights, which is the quieter times, which means that it's not usually too busy, so there's not too many problems in finding equipment. But with this cycle on strength, I've really enjoyed the strength workouts because I've found it's been a little bit less complicated as far as things that you have to use. So being in a commercial gym, I don't have to worry too much about going from that equipment to this equipment. I can set myself up in a little corner and pretty much do most things without too many hassles from other people.
Yeah, that's having to move from one apparatus to the next quite a bit in a commercial gym setting like that is very, very difficult. I've been in that situation many times myself over the years. Other than that, are there any challenges in going to commercial gym and specifically doing our programming?
No, what I've found is that, I'm the kind of person. I work at night. I work out at night time. So the only time I've got is after the kids go to bed. The two young ones go to bed at 7:00. Then I head out and I'm at the gym by about 7:30. So it doesn't get too late. I put a strict time limit on when I'm working out. So I walk in the gym, get myself set up, start my stopwatch, and I have to finish my workout in 60 minutes. And if I don't finish in 60 minutes, I just stop and I leave. So I put my headphones on, play my music, head down, just go for it. So I'm not the kind of person that's socializing and talking with anybody or getting distracted. The problem being, people have been watching me the last few months and seeing the different... I train differently than most other people do in the gym.
Yeah.
So they've been coming up to me recently and asking, "Hey man, what are you doing? What's this programming that you're doing?" And I've been able to promote Garage Gym Athlete somewhat to them.
We appreciate it.
Yeah.
You need some T-shirts.
Yeah. So it hasn't been. There's no real downside unless it is, on a Monday, Tuesday night, it gets rather busy, and I'm kind of, as I'm walking to the gym, I'm stressing whether or not my favorite workstation is going to be there with the coloured weights and so forth, and the rack and so forth. But usually, it's a kind of gym that doesn't have too many meatheads. It's kind of like a real rounded variation of people that go there. So we've got 3 racks, and usually they're not all being used. So it's not a problem at all. The only issue that I have is I want to completely indoctrinate myself into the Garage Gym Athlete life. So I would love to have a garage gym myself. And I've been dabbling with the idea of, getting a bit more equipment and trying to start one in the limited space I've got. But it's hard when I've only got the gym 5 minutes down the road.
Do you have a garage though?
I do have a garage. I've got a 2-car garage, which...
You're almost there already.
Seems ridiculous to say I don't have the room, but I probably could make it work if I had to. And if we had another COVID lockdown, I'd be seriously thinking about going and setting myself up for sure.
Yeah, I think I'm not sure if this is still true, but I remember it's like hard to get equipment to Australia. I don't know if that's still the case, but I remember Australia, like I was on this podcast and the host was Australian. He was telling me about how you guys have had your own manufacturers have popped up, and that's made things a lot easier. But prior to that, it was like really hard to get things shipped and everything. Have you noticed that? I know you probably haven't ordered a ton of equipment, but is it easier to get equipment to Australia?
I wouldn't. There's a couple of other Australian guys that I know that have ordered things, and I'd need to ask them, what was the shipping time. But at the moment, I don't think it's too bad because, as you said, I think there's some, suppliers popping up and so forth. I mean, around that COVID time, though.
Yeah.
I say COVID time because it's kind of calmed down a little bit here for us now, but it was crazy. You couldn't get anything at all.
Yeah, it's insane. Well, what are some of your goals right now?
That's a good question. I was listening to Theo's podcast tonight, and he was commenting how he wants to do everything, and that's been a little bit of my thinking as well. Like, I grew up in the 80s looking at Stallone and Schwarzenegger and wanting to be big and buff, and but also wanting to run marathons and do triathlons and Ironmans and all that kind of thing. And I think it kind of summed up where I'm at. I'm a bit of a jack of all trades, kind of master of none. I do enjoy doing everything. But if I had to lock down, for me, the main thing at the moment is to focus on consistency. this year in particular, back in December, I hurt my back a little bit, which didn't necessarily stop me from working out, but it did stop me from going all out. And I was thinking, like, my long-term goal is, well, my long-term perspective here is, you know, I want to be 60, I want to be 70, I still want to be moving, I still want to be active, I still want to be doing what I'm doing now, particularly with the young kids that I've got. I've got a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old. You know, I want to be going to the gym with them when they're 20. So that long-term perspective, and I realised that I really need to look after myself. And I was always kind of like, you know, pushing the limit every time we went to the gym. But this year I've changed my perspective, and I've gone back to like 60 to 80% effort. Almost, you know, the Chris Morgan Zone 2 type thing, but applying it to my training as well. And my goodness, this last fit week, I've just kicked it out of the ballpark. You know, keeping my body healthy, keeping my body in that zone where I'm not pushing myself, but still doing the work. And then when it comes to actually testing where I'm at, you know, I've improved in all areas. So consistency for me, I'm going for those 365 green dots this year. And, you know, a green dot in itself doesn't mean much, but it's the notion of, okay, I'm just going, regardless of how I feel, I'm just going to go and walk to the gym, walk through the door, go through the motions, do the warm-up. And usually once I've done that, I'm feeling great, and I'm getting into the workout. So for me, it's about the consistency.
It's a very important piece. And what did your training look like before you discovered us?
Well, I would say it was more CrossFit type orientated. Like I first come across you, Jerred, back in, I don't know when it was, 2012, 2013, looking up the King Kong CrossFit workout that you posted.
Yeah.
And at that stage, you know, Rich Froning was kind of coming up in CrossFit, and I guess that was my training for probably 4 or 5 years. Just myself, no going to the gym, but coming up with my own program, or following the program from the website, like a free program. The problem being with that, and this is what really I discovered when I started doing Garage Gym Athlete, is that I would do like a strength kind of 3x5 or 5x5 kind of activity. Then I'd do a short Metcon, you know, 7 to 12 minutes. I didn't do any cardio at all, really, more than 15 or 20 minutes. So even though, you know, I was reasonably fit and I've never stopped doing fitness, I really lost that kind of cardio and ability to run any length of time over that 20-minute mark. So, yeah, definitely it was the CrossFit type workouts, and mainly programming myself. And then once I started Garage Gym Athlete, it really made me push myself more than I had for many years, which is great. And I came into Garage Gym Athlete because of the COVID lockdown. The gyms were closed. I was looking for some body weight workouts. Came across you and your No Gear track, and then did that for a few weeks. The gyms opened up, and I did one of your online, I forget what it was. I don't know if it was the Red Pill or something, one of your online tracks. And then I jumped into Hard to Kill. June, July last year. So I did a track of Hard to Kill, a cycle of Hard to Kill, cycle of Shred, and now I'm on the second cycle of Strength.
Nice. So that's 2 cycles of Strength, one for Hard to Kill, one for Shred. So I'm going to have to ask, which one's your favorite?
Oh,
And I don't know. I may have been programming strength when you did it the first. I don't know.
I think he's two in a row now.
Oh, okay.
yeah. That's hard. Like I know people in the Facebook group always asking questions about, which tracks for, their goals or so forth. But I honestly believe that you could jump on any of those tracks and achieve any of your goals that you want to achieve. And for me, I'm somebody who likes variety. Being able to have the choice to swap around and choose and do different tracks is just fantastic. As strength track, I've really enjoyed because I find it a little bit simpler. Hard to kill. I mean, that knocked me around. I mean, that first of all, it came after 3 months of not being in the gym, so I was a little bit less conditioned than normal. The other thing, I don't know if I didn't say this, but just I'll back up a little bit. So I joined, I signed up to do Hard to Kill and was psyched, was really looking forward to it. And I jumped on and I did the Fit Week to get all my base numbers. And the Hard to Kill cycle was starting on that Monday. And that Saturday night, I had a 19-year-old son who actually committed suicide.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, but the reason I mentioned that was I started that Hard to Kill track. And on that Monday, this was 2 days after I had to make a decision, what was I going to do? I certainly didn't feel like going to the gym, but I forced myself to go. And this was it was the 3 by 25 squats at 50%. And I hadn't frigging done anything like that in my life. That was insane. And I was in the squat rack, and literally this was a couple of days later, and like I was squatting, I actually had tears running down my eyes. And but I persisted. I think I had to break that. My legs were shaking. I had to break that setup into about 3. But I persisted. I got through that workout, did the next one, I did the next one. And that H2K cycle, I think I got my 4 workouts a week. I didn't do all the Meet Yourself Saturdays, but I did do most of the workouts. And I tell you what, mate, that Hard to Kill cycle, you have no idea what kind of therapy that was for me during that time. It was great that I didn't have to think about my programming. It was great that I had an outlet somewhere that I could just go and zone out and just go through the motions, keep my fitness up, somewhat get some endorphins through my body, and kind of just continue my fitness journey one step at a time. So I don't know, I really appreciate, for whatever reason, I had Hard to Kill at that time in my life. And it really, really did help me in those first 3 months to get through.
That's insane.
Yeah, that's powerful, man. I appreciate you sharing that. That's fitness being an outlet for something like that is incredible. And, I appreciate you sharing. Well, I'm going to ask you now the hardest workout you've ever done.
There's a couple there, and there's a bit of a story to both. Firstly, 9 years ago, when I was 36, I did a marathon. Now, I did a lot of running as a kid. Like I've been doing fitness since about 10 years of age, and a lot of that as a kid was running. Unfortunately, from Hobart, where I live, is very hilly up and down, and all I had was, I don't know what the equivalent is in the States, but it was like cheap Kmart pair of shoes with no support or anything in them whatsoever. And I was pounding the pavement every night, which did affect my knees. So In my 20s, I moved to weight training, kind of stopped the running, didn't really run any more than a 3 or 5K over a 10-year period. And then one day, just out of the blue, just this voice in my head said, sign up for a marathon. So it was one of those clear voices. I don't know if you've ever had the experience in your life where, like, literally someone's just talking to you, sign up for a marathon. And it's something I'd always wanted to do, but I never knew whether my body, you know, with the knees and that could hold up. So I thought, okay, the voice was so clear. I went and signed up for the marathon. The problem is I hadn't done any running for about 10 years and the marathon was in 8 weeks' time. So was not long enough to prepare for a marathon. But I did the best I could. I got up to doing, it was like 2 10Ks a week with a longer run on the weekend. I didn't know I was doing it at the time, but there was more kind of zone 2 type training. And then the long runs I got up to about a bit over half distance, so 25Ks. I'm not sure how that equates to miles. But when I got to the actual race, you know, of course I got halfway in and the body was just not conditioned enough for that kind of effort. And I know the last half, it was like every time I put my foot on the ground, it was like sharp knives just being stuck into my thighs. It was like just horrific pain. And at, I guess it'd be about the 37K mark, my right knee gave way on me as well. So I had the sharp pain in that. So ended up having to kind of hobble, walk for a couple of kilometres and then kind of jog home. Finished the marathon, but nice. It wasn't quite. I was aiming for that sub 4 hour time, which I was on track to do until my knee went. But I hobbled over in about 4.5 hours. So that was painful. That was hard. Most recently, with the Garage Gym athlete experience, it was Stairway to Heaven. Now, I'll tell you why.
You don't need to explain that one. We get it.
But I always thought I was flexible because I would bend over. I could put my hand flat on the ground and so forth. And it was up until I was like 30 and when I met my wife. And now her and I are the same height. I'm like 5'9", which is, average, just below average. When we stand up next to each other, her hip is like halfway up my waist. And I realised for the first time in my life that my legs are just ridiculously short. I've got a longer torso, but ridiculously short legs. And the other thing is I either didn't know or I didn't take Joe's advice of whenever he does step-ups, make sure your legs like parallel. Well, no, I used like a 60-centimetre box with my short legs. After that first set with a waist belt on, every single minute after that, I was cursing and I was wanting to stop every single minute for 40 minutes. It was just excruciating and I hated it, absolutely hated it.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, you met yourself.
That matters. Yeah.
I met myself.
I guess that was the point.
I finished it, but man, I hated it. I just really, normally I enjoy the pain. I did not enjoy that pain.
Well, in your opinion, what's the best activity for building mental toughness?
Well, that's I had a lot of time to think about that one and what it means. I'll tell you another story. So this story is about my hero, which is my mum. So I'm the oldest of 8. And at the age of, my mum and dad, I come from very humble beginnings. On my birth certificate, it's got the occupation of my father when I was born, and it's got fruit vendor. He was on the side of the road selling fruit. Okay, so that's kind of, and he worked his butt off all his life. He built up his own business, his own cleaning business, window cleaning, offices, things like that. and worked really hard to provide a great life for us 8 kids. But at the age of 47, he died. And Mum was left. I think there was still six kids at home. And of course, there was no savings in the bank. Luckily, the insurance, she was able to pay off the house, but she still needed to put food on the table and so forth. But the story gets interesting here, where 3 years later, she actually got breast cancer herself. And she had to go and get chemo. And I wasn't living at home at the time, so she's telling, I didn't know this was happening. She told me this years after the fact, but she'd go get chemo, she'd go home, she'd lie on the couch and cry and vomit, and then get back up, and she'd have to go back out at night to work, to clean the offices, because she didn't have any choice. To me, that's mental toughness. Because people say, oh, you know, what else can I do? I don't have a choice. But everyone has a choice. People have a choice to crumble under adversity. And I look at Mum and think, no, she, you know, regardless of the situation, she put one step in front of the other, and each day, even though she was going through hell, it didn't stop her. And I think the best thing to develop mental toughness, and as Jerred, you mentioned in your book a lot, is to do tough things. It's a muscle. It doesn't just happen. You just don't suddenly wake up one day and be able to cope with the adversity of life. And when the garage gym community, we talk a lot about physical feats of toughness and mental toughness in that respect. But I think, you know, when life throws you a curveball, and when tragedy strikes, and you can continue to put one footstep in the other and get through that, to me, that's a real sign of mental toughness. And to get to that point, you need to exercise that muscle, and over the course of your life, you know, confront tough things and do tough things and get through them, if that makes sense.
It does.
Yeah.
Now, if you could only have one piece of equipment to train with for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Another good question. You know what? I wanted to be original. I wanted to think of something different, but the fact is that I would just a barbell and some plates. You know, I can find a tree to pull. In fact, during COVID lockdown, I did find a tree to do pull-ups with, because I didn't have a pull-up bar at home. I can run, I can do all sorts of things, but there's so much that you can't do if you don't have that bar. And you know, I've push presses, thrusters, and deadlifts, and just everything. I just love the bar.
Awesome. So I'm going to change mine up. So when you do eventually carve out your space for your gym, say you just have space one day, what is the first thing you're going to get?
Well, definitely a squat rack and a bar and some weights. Yeah, that'll be the first. I do have one piece of equipment, and that's a wall ball.
Perfect.
It's a bit random, but a couple of years ago I did the CrossFit Open, and leading up to the Open, in my gym they don't have any wall balls. So I thought, if this comes up in the Open, I've got to get my own. And it did come up. So and on that, just a plug for your programming. So this last few weeks, I've actually did the Open this year as well. So a couple of years ago when I did it, I was younger in my age group, but I came about 50% in the world. Okay, so 50 better than me, 50%, you know, right in the middle. The last 12 months, well, last 9 to 12 months, all I've been doing is garage gym programming, nothing else. And in the Open this year, I came just in the top third, 33% in the world.
Wow.
2 years older than what I was. So I'm 40 to 44 age bracket. So I'm against the 40-year-olds. So I'm 44. So the competition's harder, and yet I've improved so much more just doing your program.
That's awesome. That's some cool data. Thanks for sharing that with us. That's a huge improvement too. That's not like a moderate improvement. That's a giant leap.
Yeah, it all come to the fitness. So where I let myself down was the strength component, which is, you mentioned goals before, probably more strength is probably, and that comes down to diet really.
Now, there are a lot of garage gym athletes out there listening right now. What would your best advice for them be?
Best advice is form the habit. Form the habit. It's hopefully everyone here is in this for the long haul, long-term health. Don't just think this week. Don't think next week. Think 20, 30 years ahead. And what habits do you need to have in your life in order for you to become the person you want to be in 20 years' time? For me, I want to be able to do the same things I want to do right now when I'm 60. And that means just day after day, just getting out there and doing it. And if you don't feel like it, that's fine. That's fine. But just do something. Just do something. Be physical, be active. Because when you stop and when you lose the habit, it's so much harder to start up again.
I appreciate that, Mark. Well, I do appreciate your time and for, like I said at the beginning, staying up with us to be able to do the interview and sharing everything that you have, a lot of powerful stories and great information. So I appreciate your time and all you've shared, and also for you being a garage gym athlete.
No problem at all. It's been a pleasure, and thank you so much, guys, for your programming, and absolutely love it.
Thanks for listening to the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. If you want to learn more, go to garagegymathlete.com. You can learn about our training. Let us send you a copy of our book, The Garage Gym Athlete, or you can even get featured on the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. Thanks for listening.